Hey everyone. So, number 100 on my list of 100 greatest songs is We Haven't Turned Around by Gomez. Um, Gomez are a hard sell. They're a hard sell because there seems to be no traditional genre that they fall into. So if you look up Gomez on Wikipedia, which I did this morning, it says that they are a genre of blues, indie, alternative, rock, folk, psychedelic, and experimental, which mixes quite a fair few genres. Um, we Haven't Turned Around was written by Ian Ball, Tom Gray, Ben Otwell, Ollie Peacock, and Paul Blackburn, all composers of the song, the band. And I have this kind of lore that goes back a little bit with Gomez. And Gomez are a band that reminds me of somebody every time I have the debut album CD is what I have of it. And I went to when I was living in Swords, I was going to the Grad or the Debs, or whatever you want to call it, with a really lovely girl, and we were kind of getting to know each other. It wasn't a romantic thing, and we were getting to know each other, and we went into the city, Dublin, and we went to Virgin Records, and I was still there, and I wanted to get Bring It On by Gomez. So I got Bring It On. I got this really horrible Reebok jumper as well, and I was trying to impress this girl at the time and all that, but we ended up going to the Debs together, and we kind of remained in contact. But it's one of those things that like music can bring you back to a person or a place. It's very interesting, kind of, And the next year, it would have been 99 now, they released Liquid Skin, their second album, which We Haven't Turned Around is on. And We Haven't Turned Around as a single off that album. And I fall back into that kind of mode of a late teenager, Deb's time, smoking weed, finding little hidden things in their music. They're a really, really talented group of musicians, and they all have a place within the song. Like, there's no one just there hanging around playing very normal chords like I did in my bands. But the reason I picked We Haven't Turned Around, and like there's a number of Gomez songs that I love, but there's a reason I picked this one as very striking, because it's very hard to pin down, right? So for a special occasion, I brought out the electric guitar with a very dodgy lead. That's how often I play it. But one thing I love about a song is when it starts right then and there. There's no counting. There's no instrumentals, instrumental like build-ups. It just literally starts with we came again to steal the time and haunt the blame. And it does that C sharp minor to A throughout the chorus. The first chorus ends and it goes into this verse. First verse ends, it goes into the chorus immediately. There's no like break to the second verse. And then it switches to this middle section where it goes very string orchestral sound to it. And it's dominated by that sound. But in the background, I think the drummer, just make sure I get the drummer's name right, but the drummer, Ollie Peacock, he's one of my favorite drummers. He's an amazing drummer. If you watch any of their live stuff, if you don't know who they are, and have a look at them after this, he's such a brilliant drummer, and he's got so many little cool techniques. But he's in the background of this orchestral piece doing these cool little fills and stuff on the drums. And then all of a sudden, and this is kind of what I really got into, it changes, right? So it's going to go back into the chorus, and it goes to this. So this really heavy guitar all of a sudden comes out of nowhere. And I love like when there is those switch ups, and they stay in my mind for a very long time. Well, in this case, forever. Jeez, the guitar nearly went. Where this could have stayed in that kind of acousticy, clean sounding rhythm and kind of the tides of the song could have stayed the same. But they bring this really heavy guitar into it, and it becomes like it stays in there, and it becomes this kind of wall of sound idea, that Phil Spector kind of wall of sound. And this is like this band that comes from, like, they sound, like I said, they're hard to pin down, but they sound like a band that comes out of like somewhere in America, who have just spent their time with like listening to soul and blues and R&B stuff, because they have three singers. And I think this is where the problem with Gomez came. The egos started to clash, but they have three singers, and Ben Otwell, the singer, he's not the lead singer, there's really two lead singers, but he has this gravelly, mad kind of smoker's voice. And he comes in backing vocals sometimes, and he comes in and he's like front and center, and he's back, and he's the kind of slide guitar player, and he's just this really bluesy dude that like shouldn't be as bluesy as he is, because I think they're from like, where are they from? Southport in Merseyside. It's like random enough. But you know, when I think back on Liquid Skin as an album, like, it was such a huge album for me. Like, you know, if I was making an album list, this would be in the top 20 for sure. Like, you know, really kind of close to the top 10 for sounds. And like, we haven't turned around at this great video that kind of knelt into what the song was about a little bit, but not in a total way where it was explaining everything, you know. So I just wanted to read out some of the lyrics for you, because again, if we're going to be doing this thing with the songs, we want to make sure that we're you know, covering all kind of bases, because some of the songs we'll be covering will be more in there because of the lyrics rather than the chords or the content. So, you know, I sang a little bit of this, Stand Aside and Point the Blame. So you want to spin the world around, as it happens a couple of times, and anybody else come on down. So you want to make a catastrophe. Won't you send it right over to me? I got some time. Everybody run and hide. So they're really kind of, I think they're kind of vague in what they're trying. I shouldn't say they're vague in what they're trying to say. They're probably not vague, but the lyrics appear vague to me in that sense. And certainly when I was listening to Liquid Skin growing up and listening to We Haven't Turned Around, I was smoking weed and finding these, like, you know, I suppose people would have done it back in the 60s with the Beatles, but I'm not comparing Gomez to Beatles, but I'm just saying that there's similarities in the sense of, like, there was a lot of different sounds, there was a lot of taking risks, there was a few songwriters with three vocalists. There's some similarities between it, but like, you're trying to figure out, like, if you want to listen to an Oasis song, I don't think you have to dig too deep to figure out what it's about, but I think with Gomez you have to be a little bit more clever. But we were finding these, like, there's a song called Blue Moon Rising on the album, and he's clearly smoking a joint at the start, and we, in our 16, 17-year-old heads, thought that was the coolest thing. Like, you know, imagine getting away with that, even though it was 1999. But I will always have, like, wherever you see Gomez as what they went on to do, and I did listen to some of their later stuff as well, and I really like some of their later stuff, but as a band they never got to that point. And maybe it's because we become a little bit kind of immune to the transition of a band these days, not back when the Beatles were out, because, you know, but these days, because there's always like something else, and then there's more they can do in the studio, and there's all sorts of trickery they can do. But you know, when Gomez came out with their first single, Whippin' Piccadilly, what people would probably know if they heard it, it's got this mad experimental stuff in the middle where they're using a drum track, even though they've got probably the best drummer of their day back then, but they're using a drum track in it, and it sounds so odd and like off kilter, but like somehow works. But you know, I'll always like be reminded of those times, and there will be songs that will bring me into the times, and then there'll be just songs I just like in this list of 100. But like I said, I went to the Debs, and I remember like talking to this girl at the time, and you know, you want to be really interested, you know, so you want to know all this music and you want to know all this stuff. And I was down here, I was down in Athlone for summer. I always came down during my school years in summer, so I used to ring this girl once a week. And I know now I'm socially awkward at times, but I didn't know then. So I wondered why I needed to keep a pen and paper by the phone, because I was ringing using a house phone. Obviously, it was before mobiles, and I'd make little notes and of what I could say to her, like, so we didn't like get that awkward silence, because that to me would have been the worst thing, especially on a phone when you can't see the person's face. And you know, that initial trip to town, or the city, what some people call it, but we would call it town, to buy that album, and you know, music does like change your life in many ways, and like I will be going on about that a lot, but yeah, I'll always remember the girl for coming into town with me that day, for the Debs, for kind of for keeping me company, and you know, I'll dedicate this one to her. She sadly passed away a number of years ago now, from a short-term illness, and obviously it was incredibly sad. And I have this kind of really easy way to remember her now by just turning on a song or an album, and even in thinking in that sense, I suppose that's kind of mad in itself, that you can like bring forth this image of this person, or this, you know, the idea, or how this person was, by just listening to a song or an album. And a lot of these songs have emotional connections, and they'll have emotional heft, but this would be right up there because of that person. So it's dedicated to Geraldine, this particular episode. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you very much, and we'll see you for the next one. All right, thank you.